You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Welcome to Volatility Views, the premier program for volatility traders. Each week, we'll take a deep dive into the world of volatility with in-depth analysis, trading activity reviews, strategy breakdowns, cutting-edge education, and much more. We'll also bring you exclusive conversations with the traders, researchers, and asset managers who are reshaping the volatility landscape. If it involves volatility, then you'll find it on Volatility Views. And now, it's time to take a deep dive into the world of volatility. It's time for Volatility Views.
All right, everybody. That music means it is noon central on a Friday. Where else would we be but talking some vol? Yes, it is time once again for Volatility Views. Dare I say it? The premier program for vol traders. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as from the network upon which all of you folks are binging mainline, and hope you're having a good trading week. Another wild one to end the week, so I hope you're strapped in. These are ideal times to be listening to Vol Views. And remember, if you don't want your partay to end with Vol Views on the week, you want to come back, we got a fun one in store for us on Oddities this week. Special guest, going to do something a little bit different, a little bit fun. We've been diving deep into some wild and woolly activity on Oddities. Going to keep that going with a twist today, so make sure you're joining us for Options Oddities, also the Pro Q&As. Also, if you get in there now, you get your name in the hat for the March Pro Trading Crate as well. So all sorts of reasons to be heading on over to theoptionsinsider.com/pro, P-R-O, place to go to kick the tires and light the fires as we go around the horn and see who's joining us on the old Vol Views program today. First, we go out to the hinterlands of Chicago, or maybe he's down in Indiana. I think maybe his spring break is over. We shall find out, where we are joined once again by the once future and present Dr. VYLD, a.k.a. Mr. Russell Rhoads, now holding court and corrupting young minds at Indiana University. Mr. Dr. VYLD, welcome back to the show. Are you still on spring break, or is that done?
I'm looking at all things volatility and totally prepared to go.
Oh, well, there you go. Totally prepared. I'm glad.
I'm all fired up.
I'm glad to hear it. That would be a first. I like it. All right. Totally prepared to go is Mr. Rhoads. Should be a good show. Let's see if he's also prepared to go as we beam on down to the southern volatility mecca known as Austin, where we are joined once again by the greasiest. I mean, it's just dripping with grease. The greasiest of meatballs, Mr. Mark Sebastian. By the way, if you're one of our many newer listeners, you have no idea why I call him that. That goes back to the primordial ooze days of our network, where I should point out, if you think I'm being mean, he named himself that, listeners. So I'm just reiterating what he said. Mr. Meatball, welcome back to the show, sir.
That's funny. It goes back. That's got to be. Let's see. When did I start working? 2010, 2011?
Probably in that time frame, yeah. So somewhere.
Yeah. So that's a good 14 years ago.
Yeah.
In approximately 5 days, it is going to be Option Pit's 15th anniversary. We're excited for that. Wow. Happens to line up perfectly with Trump tariffs. It's like he's celebrating Option Pit with his selection of dates.
You planned it well, sir. You knew 15 years ago this is going to line up with some sweet tariffs
Yes.
Just got to bide our time.
It's like The Simpsons. It always predicts the future.
Yes, it does. Well, there you go. Congrats on your anniversary as we keep on rolling right on into a little bit of the old Volatility Review.
It's time to break down the latest developments in the volatility trading world. It's time for the Volatility Review.
All right, everybody. Let's get down to business. It is time for the Volatility Review, and you can see why the show is so challenging. We're constantly updating numbers as the show is beginning and throughout the show as well. Vol Views is the show where the updates literally never end. But let's freeze a snapshot right now, a moment in time, if you will. As we kicked off the show, listeners, if you were looking forward to another topsy-turvy week, another rock'em sock'em robots week out there where we soar out of the gate and then we come crashing back to earth at the end of the week. All of it driven by the tariffs. We were joking about these terrific markets yesterday. Don't blame me, that horrible pun spawned by the Flowmaster. I am not to blame, even if I have propagated it, but I am not the originator. So, yes, hopefully you were strapping in. These are good times to be listening to shows like Vol Views, and good times to be a vol trader. Not a good time to be, a quote-unquote vol investor, if such things really exist. I don't really know how you would be a vol investor. You got to be a trader at the end of the day if you're trading vol. And these are the markets that are designed for you. We give and we taketh away in the vol space. And earlier in the week, from a vol perspective, the markets were taken away. And this week they are given back as vol coming roaring back to life. After getting crushed really earlier this week, Trump coming out saying, maybe not going to be so hardcore on these tariff things. Markets rally, vol gets killed. Middle of the week, I don't know, maybe we are going to tariff everything, including all the parts of cars and everything. Bam, right back down. Vol right back up. And that's where we find ourselves today, listeners. Coming into the start of the show, S&P getting taken to the proverbial woodshed, off pretty much exactly 2%, 1.98% to be precise. That'll tick again in 2 seconds. S&P, I should say, the NASDAQ off 2.7%, so leading the charge to the downside. Dow off 1.7% out there. We are below. We were north of 5,700 not too long ago. Remember, we were talking about folks scooping the 5,700 calls on programs like the Option Block and TWIFO not that long ago, paying $11, $14 for those things. Those are all dead. We are below 5,700, 56.5, get out of here. 5,600, see you later. Below 5,600 now, right around 5,580 as we're kicking off the show in the S&P, listeners. So right back down to the red, and vol kicking up. VIX, when we kicked off the show, 2110, continuing its move to the upside today, listeners. That's up almost 1.5 points, about 1.45 points. What is the high? The high so far for today is actually right now, 21.36. Just ticked again as we were talking, listeners. So that puts us up almost 1.7 points on the week. So yeah, vol an ever moving target, listeners. Volley, our old pal, Mr. Scott Nations, straight at the money, straight just the facts, man. Vol product 19.1 as we kicked off the show. That's up nearly 2 points, about 1.95 points from where it was this time last week. And our old pal VYLD, the vol of vol at a 98, starting to get frothy again. When you're hitting that triple digits level or threatening it, you got to kind of sit up and pay attention in vol land. That puts us up 7 points from where we were this time last week. All right, a lot to unpack. It is yet another wild vol week. I have to go update some more numbers. So while I'm doing that, Mr. Meatball, regale us, sir. What caught your eye in the vol market today and indeed this week?
I mean, the vol markets are anemic and almost ignoring this. Most of the VIX move is Russell can tell you exactly what it is, but a chunk of this VIX move is just a function of the mechanics of VIX. And, we're down 2% and VIX can't get over 22. What's even more shocking is the VXN. I know we don't talk about VXN anymore, but it still does get quoted. And that is the VIX for the NASDAQ 100. It's down 2.6%, getting absolutely crushed. And VXN is 25. So that's pricing in 1.5% movement a day. So, and then, I know we're going to talk about VIX options here, but zero demand for protection today. Everyone's just selling.
Yeah, a little spoiler alert for later, listeners. But if you're hoping for a 1 million plus contract day in VIX today, you might be disappointed unless we come roaring hot out of the gate in the next 10 or 15 minutes, which I don't expect. Again, we've seen crazy prints go up in VIX. That could drive the whole beast, obviously. But yeah, it's as the Meatball puts it, kind of a maybe surprisingly quiet market, at least from an overall VIX volume perspective. Mr. Rhoads, same question for you, sir. A topsy-turvy week. We came out of the gate this week. Markets rally and vol getting killed. We're ending the week kind of flipping that script yet again, sir. What caught your eye?
Mentioned, as Sebastian mentioned, the VIX has basically managed to since it's now baseball season. I'll use a baseball analogy. Always seems to start with a curvy number. More often than not these days, doesn't take the positive days as well as you would like it to, and is really just kind of hovering around the high volatility regime, regardless of what the equity markets do. So looking at VIX, you gotta assume that there's probably some more downside for stocks in our future, and then the futures markets aren't giving us a whole lot of clue either, but we'll get to that part in a minute. And I like that Mark brought up VXN because you would expect, VIX is probably lower than a lot of people would expect, but VXN or the expected volatility of NASDAQ options, that is much lower than I would expect with what's been going on in that market and what could potentially continue to go on in that market. I mean, those are the stocks that are going to get hurt by the tariffs. End of story.
Yes, they are. Let's see what's going on. Mr. Rhoads hinted at the futures. Once again, very much a moving target. But if we freeze them right now, as we are wont to do, let's see how we're hanging out there in the term structure, listeners. Let's go all the way out to December this time just to see how things are lurking out there. If you go all the way out to December future right now, listeners, you're hanging out at pretty much exactly a 20.05. Weirdly enough, it's also the nadir for the curve for this week. So again, kind of looking, we've been talking for a while how eerily flat this curve is. And obviously, if you take away a little bit of that backward juice at the front of that curve, that's still pretty much the case. The low end coming in December, obviously December usually not that seasonally robust of a period from a vol perspective. The rest of the curve hanging out around 20.25, 20.40, pretty much all the way from May all the way out to November. That's pretty much just hanging out there. So we have shifted up a little bit. Last week, you were hard pressed to find a 20 handle. This week, you can't find anything below a 20 handle. But that's really about it. Coming in start of the show, we had the April future continuing to flex a little bit, getting up to about a full point, pretty close to about 0.9 of a point. I'm sure if I re-rack that right now, it would be a full point up from where it was this time last week. So ticking into modest backwardation with the rest of the curve. Not over the cash, though. And then we have the May future at about 20.25 when we kicked off the show. That puts it up right around 0.6 of a point out there. Mr. Meatball, anything catching your eye in the vol surface this week, sir?
It's pretty incredible how this week has been like a tale of 2 weeks. On Monday, they could not stop crushing vol futures. It took us it only took us 3 days to go from backwardation into a pretty steep contango. On the 18th, we were in backwardation still, and by the 24th, we'd gotten into a pretty nice contango, and VIX was 17.5. Then we kind of stay in contango, and then in one fell swoop, we're right back in backwardation. Not a full one, right? So the cash is above the April future, which is above May, which is above June, but May is pretty much in line with the back end of the curve. So there could still be more damage, but if the VIX is going to be anemic like this, it's going to be hard for the curve to really take off, which might be, and I know we're going to get to VIX options in a second, might be why VIX options are so dull today, despite the big move we're getting in markets.
Yeah, they are not exactly looking spicy, but we'll get there in a second. Mr. Rhoads, same question for you, sir. The vol surface, what, if anything, is catching your eye this week, sir?
Week over week shape that I like to refer to. It looks like, well, I'm sorry, the day over day shape, actually. I'm learning to play with new Bloomberg functions. Woo! So we were, this week, it's like we tried to get back into contango a couple of times midweek, and that's when Mark started talking about kind of a tale of two markets. That's what I was thinking, because midweek it looked like we were starting to return to some normalcy, and then lo and behold, we got our sell off today, and VIX is back in, and I would say at the short end of the curve right now, VIX is most definitely in some backwardation. It will likely, maybe come in just a little bit before the day's over with, but I think we're definitely going to be backwards. And when I say in backwardation and coming in, I think the future will catch up, or the index will come down, because people are going to be braced for the weekend.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more the former than the latter, Russell.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked either, but it's easier for me to be right if I give it two alternatives.
You're correct.
Yes.
You're right either way. You're like Andrew's two-way trades.
Yeah, there you go.
You have learned from playing this game for a little bit, Mr. Rhoads. All right, it's that time, listeners, the time you've all been waiting for, as we break down the hot, the spicy VIX options action. I was trying to delay a little bit to see if we get some more prints on the tape, but the answer is nay, at least for today, listeners. We did see some spice and some hot action earlier this week, and we will get there. Today, 301,000 contracts on the tape. You might be forgiven for saying, wait a minute, are those machines on? Yeah, they're on. We're catching them all. There's just not many Pokemon to catch out there today, listeners. The ADV, 1.12 million. So still frothy, still robust, only down about 10,000 from this time last week. So interesting stuff to be mined. We'll get there in a second. First, let's go out to our top 10, our VIX proprietary TM top 10 indicator. No one else can touch this but us. And if you did that, listeners, if you were enjoying the little bit of a put party, little bit of a put palooza we've been having creeping in to the top 10 of late, and when I say put palooza, we got up to 3. That's a lot in VIX land. We in the last 6 months or so had 50-50 for a little bit, and that was mind-blowing. But if you were enjoying that, listeners, then you may want to skip ahead a few minutes, because these next few minutes might be painful, listeners, because that's all gone. There's only one put to be found in the top 10 in VIX land today. Read into that what you will, listeners. Let's go on a Waldo hunt, shall we? See if we can find them. Cost you 199,000 contracts to break into the top 10 in VIX land. That's kind of around the level we've been at for a little while now. That gets us to the April 35. So we're coming out of the gate hot. Coming out of the gate spicy. No April 20s or 22s or anything like that. Or 15 puts. Nope. April 35s right to the jugular as we kick it off. Then number 9, we found Waldo. There he is, all the way near the bottom of the list. Again, very close to being kicked out of the top 10, listeners. No love for puts. 207,000 of the April 18 puts for number 9, and that's it. If you came to the dance for puts, you can go pick up your coat. The dance is over. Number 8, 209,000 of the May 75. So here we are right back at it. I do believe that is part of the much ballyhooed 6-leg VIX Super Stupid that our buddy the Flowmaster has been tracking so diligently. It was doing really well right out of the gate. That first week, they were up about 5 million. They pretty much gave it all back, and they were down about 5 million last week and even earlier this week. They are looking obviously a lot better right now. I haven't crunched the numbers. I'll have to go check in on the Flowmaster's proprietary tracking model for that and see how it's looking. But yeah, either way, the 75's coming in at number 8. Number 7, 215,000 of the June 42 halves. Again, you know, it's my favorite strike on the board, listeners. 42 halves for days. Every month, somebody's got an axe to grind there. Like number 6. If the June 42 half's a little bit too far out for you, how about number 6, 217,000 of the April 42 halves? Because why not? You get a 42 half, and you get a 42. Everybody gets a 42 half, listeners. Number 5, 218,000 of the April 25s. If you're saying to yourself, wow, that's surprisingly reasonable given all this other crap you've been talking about, then allow me to present number 4, 277,000 of the April 20s. Dare I say it, one of, if not the most reasonable positions on this board this week. You can guess what the other one I think is kind of reasonable. Number 3, 285,000 of the also, dare I say it, reasonable April 22s. In fact, I do believe that's part of a question of the week we have going right now, a little flash poll. I'll get there in a second. Number 2, 287,000 of the April 40s. So right back at it, listeners. And the big dog out here again, I've said it before. You got to love this strike because somebody does for size. It's the 42 halves, 428,000 of them. But this time, we're going all the way out to August. Yes, the August 42 halves, listeners. 428,000 of those bad boys coming in at the number 1 spot this week. But you know what, listeners? He's rested from a week off on spring break. He's ready to go. It was a spicy week, at least earlier this week on the vol front. Let's see what nuggets he was able to mine, listeners. It is time for Russell's Weekly Rundown.
Now, Russell's Weekly Rundown. Now, Russell's Weekly Rundown.
All right, Mr. Rhoads, have at it. The floor is yours, sir.
Got 35 minutes. Let's go. All right. Contrasting trades on Monday with VIX at 1816. We had somebody put on a bear call spread 5,000 times using the April 9th options. They sold the April 9th 24 calls and bought the April 9th 30 calls. Took in a credit of 35 cents. Long as VIX remains below 24 over the next week and a half, good stuff. Opposite trade later in the day, kind of interesting. The bearish trade occurred when VIX was at 1816. It was a bullish VIX trade with VIX down at 1749. So, maybe they're paying a little bit of attention to the overall market. Somebody bought 7,250 of the April 9th 23 calls for 48 cents and sold 7,250 of the April 9th 30 calls for 19 cents, and they paid 29 cents. So a bear call spread using the 24-30 strikes and a bull call spread using the 23 and the 30 strikes. I guess it is very possible that both traders could make money on this one if we get like a settlement between 23, 30, and 24. Tuesday. Broken wing iron condor using the April 9th options. A lot of April 9th trades, and I think that's because it's the first expiration after the employment number. But with VIX at 1710 on Tuesday, they did 100 each, and each of these options are April 9th options. They bought the 18 call, they sold the 20 call, they sold the 23 call, and then they bought the 27 call. So there's 2 points. I called it an iron condor, call condor. There's 2 points between the lower strikes and four points between the higher strikes. They did all of that for a net cost of 28 cents. So above 1828, they start to make money on this, and they're good up to 23.28, and then things start to take a dive to the downside, and losses are limited after we're at 27 or higher. So probably a way to target the low 20s for April 9th settlement. Wednesday's usually a pretty quiet day for weeklies just because it's an expiration day. With VIX at 1716, again, the April 9th options, somebody bought 160 of the 20 puts for 239 and sold 160 of the 18 puts for 85 cents, looking for VIX under 18 at if they hold it to expiration. They spent $1.54 on this. They only get a 46-cent profit if we're below 18. So I'm not sure how excited I am about the risk reward on this trade. And it's really easy to criticize when VIX is now in the 20s. But maybe at the time it looked like it made sense. I think I would have found a different structure for that. and maybe a different dollar risk reward. And then yesterday, VIX at 1914. Somebody bought 100 of the April 23rd 30 calls and sold 100 of the April 23rd 40 calls. Net cost of 32 cents. Hoping for some sort of true volatility spike over the next, how many weeks would that be? Next 4 weeks. And then finally yesterday with VIX at 1863, a nearer dated one. And I really just, I would do this trade differently if I had a bullish outlook for VIX. Somebody bought 300 of the April 2nd 25 calls for 20 cents and sold 300 of the April 2nd 30 calls for 8 cents. That was a net cost of 12 cents. Excuse me, I had a sneeze that snuck out. Net cost of 12 cents or so. My issue with this trade is, let's say we come in Monday morning and we've got some sort of a volatility spike. You gotta get out of your long 25 calls, but you also have to get out of your short 30 strike calls. And I think I just would have not taken in the 8 cents and bought those 25 calls for 20 cents instead of doing both. So, and nothing terribly interesting from today. Nothing really interesting today. Nothing from today using the options that expire next week, except for maybe some small exiting trades.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that spread. Why bother with that other leg? You don't need it.
Yeah.
But let's see what we do need out here in VIX options this week. Trying to buy some time for a little bit more paper. We're up all the way to 327,000 contracts, but don't worry, listeners. It gets spicier as we move a little earlier in the week. Today, though, there is one interesting print that caught my eye. 327 on the tape. The big dog today, 43,000 of the April 18 puts. So while Dr. VIX was talking, I went and looked to see when those and what those went up for. And they went up not as a spread, but in one big block of 30,000 for 42 cents. Looks like paper was straight buying those, lifting the offer when VIX cash was a wee bit lower, obviously. So interesting print. People we know always gravitate towards the puts for a variety of reasons, probably because there's so few of them right now in the top 10. So we thought we'd put it out to you folks. Are you folks down for that? That just went live a few minutes ago. Are you folks buyers or sellers of these April puts, 18 puts for 42 cents? And 2/3 of you say sold to you right now. Only 1/3 of you want to buy them. That's an interesting level. We were just, as Meatball was saying, we were down 17 in the cash not that long ago, this week. So this is the one, if you sell them, I can maybe see the argument, but you might also be sweating it a bit out there as well. So it's an interesting one. That's why we put it out to you folks to be the ultimate arbiters. We will come back and check on that a little bit later in the show. See what you folks think. Even our own pro chat, they're kind of debating. Looks like a lot of them want to sell them, though, so... Yeah, so looks like our pro members are leaning towards the sold to you side as well. Yesterday, not as active either. 511,000 contracts on the tape. Again, we had a decent little down day in the market yesterday and a little bit of whipsaw action intraday. So you think that would drive a little bit more paper, but nope, 511 on the tape. The big dog yesterday, 29,000 of the April 20s, followed by number 2, 28,000 of the April 18 puts. Number 3, 24,000 of the April 30s. Number 4, 23,000 of the April 16 puts, and number 5, 22,000 of the April 19 puts. By the way, the rest of today's stuff is not much going on. 19,000 of the April 25s is number 2 today, if you are curious. Yesterday, some interesting trading. I was talking about the April 20s and 30s on Thursday, and they were lighting it up on Wednesday. 655,000 contracts on the tape on Wednesday. So getting, a little bit spicier out there on Wednesday. Still not hitting our ADV. The big dog, 79, almost 80,000 of the April 20 calls, followed by number 2, 72,000 of the April 30 calls. So when it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it probably is a duck. It probably is a vertical. So we went out and looked, and sure enough, it did go up, including one big block of 53,437 contracts for 77 cents, April 2030. Kind of an interesting vertical. We kind of thought it was intriguing. And certainly that price level, 77 cents, remember that. We're going to come back to that, listeners. Number 3 on Wednesday, 35,000 of the April 16 puts. So once again, we're all over the place. Number 4, 25,000 of the June, going all the way out to June 18 puts. And then number 5, 25,000 of the April 33s. Remember, I said they paid 77 cents for that vertical because on Tuesday was the hot, spicy day of the week. Doesn't seem like we're going to threaten it today, listeners. 1.35 million contracts on Tuesday. Remember, we came out hot out of the gate on Monday. Vol getting annihilated, markets rally, and Tuesday, big volume day in VIX. 1.35 million. The big dog, listeners, 182,000 of the April 22s. We said, wow, that's a big print. Let's go see what was going on there. Was it part of a vertical, a ratio spread like these things often are, or something else? And the answer is no, listeners. That was straight up April 22s. They traded in a huge block of 161,000 again for that magic number of 77 cents. So apparently double sevens is your magic vol number this week. Also because both of those trades are looking pretty darn good right now. So we thought, those are both interesting. April 22 straight up for 77 cents, a whole boatload of those, or the April 2030 vertical also for 77 cents. Obviously, these were done when VIX was a little bit lower. But we thought, we put it out to you folks as well. Which of those do you like better? Straight gun to your head. You got to pay 77 cents for something. Which way are you going? April 2030s or straight 22s? By the way, they're obviously both doing better right now. The April 22s, they both have pretty much doubled. The April 22s hit about $1.43 this morning, and they're probably even higher now. And that vertical hit about $1.37, $1.40. So they both have pretty much doubled so far. So obviously they're both winners regardless of which one you choose right now. But go back a couple of days when VIX was a little bit lower in your mind, listeners, and in the markets. Which of those, gun to your head, would you rather buy? Looks like right now exactly 50% of our audience want to go the vertical route. 30% are a little bit more optimistic on the vol side. They want to go straight April 22s, go big or go home. And nobody wants to sell that spread, which is kind of interesting. And 20% of you saying neither of those are really floating your boat right now. Those are both live. We put them live right before the show, listeners. We'll keep them live so that you folks listening on the podcast later today can vote. If you're listening down the road, just go to add options. We'll have something else fun there for you, but not these. So interesting stuff. Which of those would you rather have in your hot little hands, listeners? April 22s or the 2030 for the exact same price? Kind of interesting. Don't see that too often, let alone for size. Monday, another spicy day, 952,000 contracts on the tape. Of the big dog, 39,000 of the June 20s. That was another one. We were talking about those on Monday's option block. I'll have to go back and dig up the price, but we were asking you folks if you were down for a little bit of those June 20s as well. Again, that 20 strike is usually pretty popular. Not all the way out to June, but we've seen weirder things. Number 2, 38,000 of the May 25s. Number 3, 34,000 of the April 40s. Number 4, 32,000 of the May 45. So we're all over the strike chain today, or Monday, I should say. Number 5, 31,000 of the April 25s. All right, quite a whirlwind. Most of it earlier this week, the latter portion of the week, not as exciting. Some interesting paper going up this week, including a couple that we're asking our audience about right now. Are you a fan of these April 18 puts for, I believe it was April 18 puts, they went up for 42 cents. Are you down with those? Are you a buyer or a seller? And which of these do you like better? The April 2030 vertical or April 22s? You can buy them for about the same price. You can, in fact, do them right now for about the same price, both around $1.40. And any other paper catching your eye in VIX options this week, sir? Mr. Rhoads, any of those trades resonate to you, sir?
Yeah, I was kind of prepared to step in case he. The August 42.5s. What the heck? Why do people do that stuff? That's what I don't get. I don't understand. And you said it was a buy, correct?
Straight up buy, 77 cents, sir.
Why do you do that? Because and this was, me for years banging my head against the wall, explaining that, all option trades, and I just taught this yesterday at Indiana, all option trades need to start out with a price and a timing outlook. So, if in the VIX world, you're going to get the most responsiveness from a VIX move from the front month future. And it's very, the front couple of month futures. And if I'll tell you right now, if VIX spiked up to 50, next week, I'll bet you the August contract, it'll budge some, but I'll bet you they hardly profit or maybe don't even make anything off of that trade. That you're really going to need the move for spot, and I'm talking about spot VIX, not the August contract. but you need the move from spot VIX for that thing to pay off. You need for that to occur, sometime between July expiration and August expiration for it to really work out for you. And then, so sometimes when you see people buy or longer dated options like that, it's because they want to match it up with continuously selling shorter dated options. And that's something I do. If I've got a long-term opinion on a stock, I've talked offline about this, I'll buy a deep in the money call or put, and then periodically I'll sell shorter dated options against it. That doesn't work in VIX. So that can't be a reason to do this either. So we got to find out who this person is and get them on the show.
That's our job at the end of the day, to educate the VIX options trading audience out there, especially the size ones. They need it the most, Mr. Rhoads out there. As we keep on rolling out of the land of VIX into the land of inverse vol, aka SVIX. And yeah, this looks like what we got cooking out here, listeners, is getting a little bit spicier, a little bit steeper as the show has progressed, because SVIX continues to drop. It was 2080 as we kicked off the show. That puts it down about exactly a point. And as we're coming into this part of the show, it's at about a 2040, so down about 1.4 points. SVIX putting up a little bit of paper today, 7,800 contracts. The ADV 13,000 again, so picking up 1,000 contracts, so starting to move in the right direction. If you're wondering, the big dog position, such as it is right now in SVIX, 3,758 of the June 27th. An interesting choice out there, listeners. Would you be loading up on some upside? Usually it passes prologue. These could be overriders as well. Looks like a bunch of these traded about a month ago. Let's see. So that's when SVIX was 25.25. Looks like they traded $3.03. Paper could have actually been overwriting these. So if that's the case, 27s, they're looking pretty good right now. Maybe they want to consider getting some or all of them out of Dodge out here, listeners. But that is your big dog position. So actually an overwrite out there in June on the 27 handle, which haven't threatened it in a little while. So he's looking pretty good. Number 2, 3,500 of the April 12 puts. Those are also seemingly a distant memory right now as we keep going out there. Looking at today, what's lighting it up today? It's the 22 calls expiring next week. Traded 550 times out there, listeners. So, yeah, interesting stuff out here. Mr. Rhoads, anything catching your eye in the magical world of SVIX, sir?
Sway and start working to sway higher. We talked about it a little bit last week, and we've got the new one. I bought some of the new one this week.
Ah, yes.
Very excited about that.
Excited about that. Much ballyhooed new one. Let's since we're talking inverse vol, we might as well squeeze that one in as well. That is the VYLD, VYLD, just went live last week, listeners. And we had folks writing in, including Finite Regress, or his actual handle is short UVIX. So I guess he's down for a little bit of short vol. He was asking, could I like to hear some discussion about this on Vol Views on Friday, please? And he put the prayer hands emoji. So we said, we did just talk about this last week. He was like, oh, I missed it. So if you're going to ask for something, make sure you check out the episode first. But that said, we're nice folks, so we will talk about it again this week. VYLD, if you were buying it for a little bit of action, a little bit of yield out there, it hasn't been, let's just say, the most action-packed of weeks. It's been at 25, 26, kind of glued all week. It was, 25 1/3 on Monday. We got as high as 25.47 and as low as 25.19. So if you were diving in to this for a whirlwind of short vol and inverse vol, not exactly the spiciest of meatballs. Also worth noting, no options to speak of yet, so nothing to sink our teeth into out there. But Mr. Rhoads, you said you bought this bad boy. What inspired that madness, and what are your thoughts of it so far?
Couple hundred shares because I want to make myself pay attention to it. And what I want to do is, I think I have a feeling as to how it's going to behave differently than SVIX, but I would like to see that in the marketplace. And the only way to do that is to own it side by side on my screen. You talked about how it hasn't done a whole lot to the upside. I think the attractiveness of this guy is that it's limited on the downside when we get the volatility events. And I looked at the 10 worst and 10 best days for being short VXX, because we have so much history on that, and then looked at what the index that VYLD is based on. And for instance, the worst day to be short VXX is February 5th of 2018. Imagine that. And short VXX would have lost 49%. Owning VYLD, you'd have been down about 14.6%. But on the other side of it, it's a grinder. The best day for short VXX is the next day, February 6th, 2018. And it was up 35% that day. VYLD was up 7.67% that day. So it doesn't go up as much as SVIX. It doesn't go down as much as SVIX. I do think over a longer period of time, because it doesn't have to make up as the dramatic losses, that it might be an outperformer, but it's kind of a snoozy outperformer, something that people are not going to get overly excited about. But sometimes the least exciting stuff can be places that you do the best over the long term.
Indeed, listeners. So have you folks, let us know. Have you folks, obviously some folks are asking us about it. So some folks are intrigued by a little bit of VYLD. Does that include you folks out there, listeners? Hit us up. Let us know as we keep rolling out to the land of UVIX. A little levered vol for you, listeners. Ticking up another point since we started the show. Was 35.80 when we kicked off the show. 36.80. Right now, up 3.4, almost 3.5 points from last week. If you've been trading a little UVIX, I've been talking about some of what I was doing in UVIX on options oddities. Listen, it's been an interesting time, whipsawing all over the place, north of 50 not too long ago, back down to about a 30, maybe even got a little bit below it, and now back up to nearly a 37 out there. So wild times. I'm working some more UVIX fun, listeners. I just checked while Russell was talking. It doesn't seem like I'm filled yet, but I shall wait and see. Patience is a virtue out here in these products. Unless you're capturing the move now, then you just got to get done. But yeah, 36.80, 19,000 contracts on the tape. May not sound like a lot, but then again, the ADV is only 16,000 contracts, down yet another 1,000 this week. So when you see that, 19,000, nothing to sneeze at the end of the day out here, listeners. Let's see. If you're looking at what the spicy meatball is today in UVIX, 2,000, actually 2,100 of the May 50s, 5-0s. That may sound crazy, but I said we were just there not too long ago. My goodness, they traded $5.17 for the May 50s. Now you're buying some duration, and we all know UVIX is pricey. The vol is a little juicy out there. 168 vol. Is what they're trading on these. UVIX was a little higher, 37.25 when they did this, but still, that's a spicy meatball. Also worth noting, the 48s traded for $5. So maybe they were about an hour apart though. It doesn't look like a vertical, and they don't go up on any sort of ratio that makes sense unless you're doing really a 1x3. It looks like they were just buying straight both. So June 50s also trading today. So a ton of UVIX upside. Mr. Rhoads, what's catching your eye in UVIX? And are you down for a little May 50s, 48s, or June 50s for prices north of $5, sir?
North of $5? Oh, you mean option prices north of $5?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, you were getting me. No, I gotta buy I gotta buy UVIX in a couple of hours, and I'm not really excited about it. So as much as it's up today, I don't really play in the options in UVIX. I typically buy it for a very short term, like intraday trade, but people know I also buy it for a weekend trade as well. So now I'm not really thinking about, and I have run some option trading strategies to try and figure out a way to improve on owning UVIX over the weekend and continue to come up with nothing. I try a couple of alternatives every weekend and I just can't come up with anything. Boo.
Boo indeed. Is it a boo day out there in UVXY? I know all you UVXY defense force is saying, hey, talk about us. What about us? Yeah, you're putting up some numbers today, so congrats. 23-20 as we're coming into this portion of the show, up about 1.7 points from last week. 127,000 contracts on the tape. That's against an ADV of 132, which is actually moving in the wrong direction. That's down 14,000. If you're wondering, the big dog out there in UVXY, about 15,000 of the June 34s. So intriguing strikes, followed by about 13,000 of the the March 30s out there, which is all kind of funky stuff out there today. If you're wondering what folks are slinging today, if past is prologue, they love slinging some at the money stuff in UVXY right as it's going out. And yeah, it looks like actually these are a little bit out of the money for UVXY. Of course, they were at the money not too long ago. These are the expiring today, which is what we expect, March 28th. 22 puts traded 11,000 times today in UVXY, including a big block. Oh, for a nickel. Somebody blasted away at him for a nickel when UVXY was 22.84. Talk about picking up your literal nickel in front of the steamroller. Really? You got to go out there, collect that nickel and UVXY. Okay, hey, you do you out there. Mr. Rhoads, I've told you before, I'll told you again, why you have to keep picking up these nickels in front of the UVXY steamroller, sir?
My biggest regret in life, actually my second biggest regret in life right now, somebody stole the SIBO signs off of the entrance from Van Buren recently. So I'm upset that I didn't do that. But my second biggest, in the exact same spot, my second biggest regret ever, it was years ago when I was working at SIBO. I left my phone to get charged, went to grab some food, and they were repaving, and there were steamrollers driving past SIBO at the moment. And the fact that I didn't run back upstairs and get my phone and get a cool video of that, I will regret for the rest of my life. But no, I was not selling those options for a nickel. That stuff catches up with you eventually. And I'm too old to try and make up for it if it catches up with me now.
Yeah, so enjoy that nickel. Looks like you're probably going to keep it today. We shall see. Yeah, our chat thinks those UVIX calls are expensive. You're right, they are. Those are pretty spicy out there. VXX also looking a little bit spicy right now, as you would expect. 51.20, gaining about another point during the course of the show. So it was up about 1.9 points, up about 2.9 now, so close to 3 points on the week. Also putting up some numbers, 52,000 contracts going up so far today. The ADV 58,000. That's actually down 2,000. Seems like we're going to hit that today. If you're wondering what the big dog trades out there in VXX right now, is 2,600 of the April 46 puts. Intriguing. Followed by 2,100 of the March 49 puts. These are expiring today, and these were opening as well. So once again, 0-day fun. What do we have here? We have folks buying these bad boys, which that's looking kind of rough right now. Buying them for prices between, looks like 8 all the way up to 30 cents. They traded 30 cents when the VXX was 49.70, so obviously lower earlier this morning. So yeah, that 30 cents seemed like it's going the way of the dodo. We could revert. That's a long way for VXX to revert by the end of the day, but we've seen wilder things. So yeah. Oh, actually, I take it back. They traded a $1.14 earlier this morning. That's ouchy, and those also look like a buy. So that seems like some premium going to die there. In terms of size positions, the big dog in VXX right now, 9,900 of the 44 half puts expiring today, Mr. Rhoads. And if past is prologue, folks probably bought those as well, and those are going the way of the dodo. What are your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I think that's the unfortunate direction on that one, as much as we try.
And we always try to squeeze you folks onto the show. Let's do a real quick volatility voicemail.
It's time to share your thoughts and opinions with your fellow volatility traders. It's time to check the volatility voicemail. Make your voice heard by dialing 779-669-4VOL. Posting a comment on the optionsinsider.com, sending an email to questions@theoptionsinsider.com, or posting your questions to twitter.com/options or facebook.com/theoptionsinsider.
Let's get out here. This one kind of struck me as humorous because I heard from this from a bunch of different sources. We actually noticed it ourselves as well, but this happened to be sent in, this comment by AJ Oline, or maybe A Jolien, however you want to go with it. He said, "Did you guys see this VIX nonsense from Market Watch?" And he puts rolling on the floor, a laughing, followed by a laughing face emoji. And yeah, we did see this. Actually, and then people actually brought it up to us. This is from a few weeks ago down at the FIA conference. People came up to me and said, "Did you see this?" And it just happened. I happened to pull it up and it was still there. So I pulled it up as a screenshot. And it's like you did as well. This is from, I think, a couple of weeks ago because it was during FIA. And it was during one of our early VIX spikes in this recent run of VIX movement. And it was on the headlines, the main page of Market Watch. The top story from markets was, "The VIX is spiking. Don't be tempted into buying into stocks just yet." That was from actually March 11th. Yeah, so it was a few weeks ago. And then literally the same day, a few hours early, the story immediately below it on Market Watch was, "Spiking VIX can signal it's time to buy stocks." It's just ridiculous. Obviously, one hand didn't know what the other hand was talking about there. But a lot of people noticed this down at the FIA show and mentioned it to me. I'm glad you did as well. You reminded me of it, AJ, because I wanted to talk about it on the show. It just kind of goes to show, I wouldn't even consider Market Watch to be quote unquote mainstream. They obviously are focused on financial markets, and even they can post things that are completely opposite, diametrically opposite in this case. And I could see why a lot of people out there, Mr. Rhoads, are confused when markets get spicy like this, because they're reading outlets that should know better, who are posting at pretty much the exact same time 2 articles saying exactly opposite things. Did you notice this, Mr. Rhoads, and what are your thoughts?
Carries Barron's and Wall Street Journal stuff as well, and the don't be tempted into buying stocks just yet was Barron's, and the one saying go ahead and buy was Market Watch. Now I think of Barron's as being a little more professionally oriented and Market Watch as being a little bit more retail oriented. So maybe they were catering to the off, and I've got a big smile on my face because I'm being so sarcastic here, but maybe they were just catering to the audiences for both of them. Pros know that VIX is spiking. Maybe it's too early. Retail, they love it when they hear about VIX, and maybe they think they just got an inside idea to start putting money to work on the market. So
very nice of you, sir, to do all that heavy lifting and carry that water for them, sir. Well done.
Yeah, no, I was like, I just, and it's just because I've dealt with those guys, but like when SEMA would send me out to go talk to reporters about VIX and just, renew relationships and stuff. When I would go visit the Wall Street Journal, the people that covered the option markets for those 3 entities were all within walking distance of each other. So I just physically know that they're far enough away that they could write something different, even though they work for the same place.
Yeah, it's obviously their internal little algorithm scraped everything with the VIX handle and put it up under that one masthead thing. But obviously, someone probably should have.
It's funny. I do not deny that it's
at the very least space them out. Don't put them right next to each other. So yeah, a lot of people noticed that. I'm glad you reminded me of that, AJ, because I had wanted to mention that on the show. As we keep on rolling into the crystal ball.
It's time to peer into the future and reveal what the volatility gods hold in store. It's time to look into the crystal ball.
All right, listeners, as we're coming into the end of the show, we have VIX Cash still looking spicy at about a 21.85. Let's see, where was it at the start of the show? Was that a 21.10? Excuse me, at the start of the show. So we have continued to tick up. The sell-off is pretty much around the same level that we were at the start of the show. S&P off about 2%, NASDAQ off about 2 2/3%, Dow off about 1 2/3%. So we're hanging out pretty much at that same level, but vol is obviously a little bit spicier. 21.85, that puts me exactly a half a handle away at 21.35. I was feeling the most optimistic on vol. I was looking really good right at the start of the show until I wasn't, as is often the case. It was myself, it was Dr. VIX, and the Rock Lobster last week. Dr. VIX was the next closest at 20.47, And then the Rock Lobster was feeling the death of Vol at 1963. No joy for any of us on the show today, listeners. And it looks like Mr. Meatball has not paid his internet bill out there today. So we have lost him for the end of the show, listeners. He needs to pay that internet bill. You know, Austin kind of out in the hinterlands. So I don't think we'll be able to reconnect for him. So guess what? He gets to go first, and I get to guess for him. He likes palindromic nonsense. He's going to go at a very spicy 55-55. No, he's really feeling some ball for this time next. That's what he gets for not paying his internet bill. I should say. For not paying the old internet bill over there in Austin. I was the closest, so I will probably go next. I'll save Mr. Rhoads some time to think. And we're in that kind of spicy zone. Could we be here a little bit more? I think the answer is potentially yes. I'm going to say we're north of where we are right now by about a point. I'm going to say about 22. I want to say 22. I'm going to say 22.72 out there for my level for this time next week. Mr. Rhoads, what are you feeling? You feeling spicy? You feeling mild? What are you feeling for this time next week?
I'm feeling kind of par for the course, so I'm going to go with 2047. I feel like we'll probably drift a little bit lower. We'll have the employment number behind us. So I think we'll be in the 20s, but not too much into the 20s.
So you're feeling exactly where you were this time last year. You're doing the old broken clock.
Oh, I thought it was 1947 this way. Oh,
no, you were at 2047 last week.
Oh, was I? Oh, okay. Well, 1947 or 2047 this
Now
week.
you're getting a in-depth look into Russell's model. What did I get last week? Let's go that way again. So we got a wild market this week, listeners. 2270 from 72, I should say, for me. Mr. Rhoads 2047, and the Meatball at a just completely insane 55 double. What was he thinking? I don't know. We can't find out. Maybe we'll have to tune in with him next week and say, what were you thinking at that 55 double? I'm looking to see if our chat has any guesses. I see some 18 handles in there. So get your guesses in now, chat. And Mr. Rhoads, if folks want to check out what you have cooking on the land of subbing and stacking, where should they go? What should they do?
I just put it up on Twitter. So, and actually I put the graphic that I was talking about where I did the 10 worst and 10 best days for being short VXX and showed what the new ETP would do. I actually just tweeted that just a few minutes ago to give everybody a little bit more of an illustration. So when I do stuff, I put it on Twitter.
Give him a follow on the old Twitter/SX. Yes, I'm thinking of his name. Twitter/X. Of course, you know where to find him. 2 S's, 2 L's, RHOADS, all one word. Give the Pit folks a follow as well. You know, maybe if you head on over there, they can afford to pay some internet. Optionpit.com is the place to go. And last but not least, make sure, of course, if you want your party to continue, which it will in a little bit, I will be joined. I won't let the cat out of the bag yet, but I will be joined by a fun guest. We're going to do something a little bit different on Oddities today. I think you folks are going to like it. Might be some fun surprises in store for you folks as well. That'll be coming up in a little bit, so stay tuned. If you're hanging out in the live, we'll put some fun stuff in there. I'll be back at 2 p.m. Central, our normal time, to talk some oddities. If you folks want to join that party, you don't want your broadcast week to end, then head on over to the pro, theoptionsinsider.com/pro, the place to go to learn more. That's going to do it for us today. Hope you had a good trading week. Have a great weekend. Get away from your screens. We got a couple more hours here, so do some last trade, and I'll see if I get filled on my UVIX. I'll give you reports on the oddities for listeners. And then, of course, see you back here on Monday. Can the Pit Boys figure out their internet so the Rock Lobster can maybe win another point in our trivia contest? I guess we'll find out. All the way through to next Friday, another episode of Volatility Views. Stay safe out there, everybody.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.